This podcast is brought to you today by Prezi Business. If you're tired of showing customers the same old boring slide decks, make a more powerful point with Prezi Business. Interactive presentations your customer will actually enjoy, and most importantly, they'll remember. Visit Prezi.com/TSE for a free demo today. Again, Prezi.com/TSE. They'll give you a free demo. So often we hear of a negative connotation with sales and marketing. It's like oil and water. It doesn't get along. My guest today, Ali, is going to share with us how we can make sure our sales and marketing teams are working cohesively for one goal: success with our company. You're going to love this discussion. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. As I mentioned, I have Ali coming on the show today. He's going to share with us some thoughts and some insights. He's a president of Rose Garden Consulting. They're out of Atlanta. They offer some awesome sales training and some great coaching opportunities, mentoring for sales professionals, for sales teams. Great guy doing some awesome things. Today, we're going to have a discussion on sales and marketing and how we can make sure those two align even more effectively within our company. We had a little bit of challenge with Skype. So, we have a great editor. So, great audio engineer. He put this together, made it sound great. So, give a big shout out to our audio engineer. And also, I want to give some shout outs this week to some folks who have been so supportive and been helping us and, checking on us throughout the storm last week. I want to give a huge shout out this week as well to Kelly, Scotty, Ben, Ellery, all you guys out there, Turleys, for who reached out to us and connected with us, wanted to make sure we're safe. Thank you guys. And all of you other evangelizers who are just out there, checking in on us. We really, 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 really appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. My wife and I are extremely grateful for that. So, we have this fabulous guest. He's going to go into talking about some really cool stuff today and share some thoughts with us. I won't take up much more time, but I want to give a shout out as well to my friends over at Prezi. And for those of you who haven't changed yet, who haven't at least looked at a demonstration, I highly recommend you check out the demonstration. Go to Prezi.com/TSE, 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 and you can get access to a free demonstration that they'll show you about Prezi Business and how this tool is so enhanced and how powerful it is. And it's something that maybe your marketing team can look at as well, and your sales team, as we dive into this discussion with Ali and see if this is something that can help to bridge that gap as well. One of the things that I hated in the past was, marketing thought that we were supposed to do things one way. Sales thought we wanted to do things another way. But it wasn't until we came together, worked together, we saw effective growth. So I highly recommend that you get your marketing director, your sales manager, and you guys sit down and watch this demonstration, see how Prezi Business can enhance the story that your business is trying to tell. I won't take up much more time. As I said, let's go ahead and dive into the episode today with Ali. Welcome to the show, Ali.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Dude, I'm excited to have you. You hail from the great state of Georgia, right?
That's where I reside.
ATL, man. I love it up there. Is it really hot right now?
It's starting to get there, yeah.
I know. I'm down in South Florida, and folks down here call it Hotlanta up there. I'm like, man, it's hotter down here. What are you guys complaining about?
I was just in Miami recently, and the sun is piercing. It's I got burnt. I don't burn too often.
I'm dark, and I go outside. I need suntan, man.
No, absolutely.
Well, dude, before we jump into all the fun stuff today, man, why don't you tell us about your coolest sales experience when you were the customer?
I would say the coolest sales experience I've ever had was, I was actually recently. I was dealing with a marketing agency, and, I had absolutely zero intention of buying. I just kind of wanted to, I really was doing a secret shopper for myself, trying to figure out what I needed to do for my company, because I'm not the greatest marketer in the world. And this company seemed to have their stuff together. So I just started talking to him. But by the end of it, I was so sold and convinced on this guy, because the whole conversation was about me and my goals, that I ended up signing with them the following week.
Serious?
Yeah, that's it. I had absolutely zero intention of buying. And in the back of my mind, I had an idea of what it was going to cost. And it was at least 3 times the price of what I thought it was going to cost. But it really went and proved what I always say: there's no such thing as a product, no such thing as a price. It really just boils down to, if you can build enough value and you can get the client to resonate. And that's exactly what he did. He resonated the value internally within me. And really all it was me talking about what I needed to do with my company. That was it. And bang, I signed on the dotted line, sent him a check.
I love those, man. It's so cool when people can just have those conversations with you and just provide so much value that you can't help but not, just not go along with them and not, not get what they have to offer because it's straight value. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, and he really wasn't even trying to sell me. He was just trying to know more about me, my company, my goals. And then, of course there was a sales pitch at the end, but I mean, it was seamless. It was flawless. And you know what? I'm incredibly happy to be working with the fellow.
That's awesome, man. Well, tell us a little bit more about what you do.
So I run a firm called Rose Garden Consulting, and we are a sales consulting firm. In a nutshell, if I had to give you one sentence about us, we will increase your sales, period. Now, if you got a sales team, we'll come in and develop a process for you and, basically move the needle forward. A lot of companies bring us in when they've plateaued and they just don't know how to keep increasing revenue. And then on the flip side of that, everyone's heard the old expression, those who cannot do, teach. Well, we put our money where our mouth is. So if you don't have a sales team, we will actually come in and represent your product and sell for you.
Dude, that is cool, man. That is great.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like there's fun. I mean, obviously you probably have come across a couple things that you can share with our audience. It sounds like you've been around the block once or twice and know some of those challenges, know some of those difficulties. And on this episode today, we wanted to focus primarily on, the difference between sales versus marketing. And I'm sure we're going to dabble in on some of your other expertise. But before we dive into that, why even have the conversation about sales versus marketing?
Well, I think the conversation needs to be had because far too many people confuse the two. And the simplest way I can put it is this. I always cringe whenever someone tells me they're in sales and marketing. And the way that I look at that is to me, it's very similar to making the statement, I'm a doctor and a lawyer. You could be both, but you're probably not. Sales and marketing, those are two different facets of an organization. And yes, while they do communicate and they run into one another and they transition, but they are two separate entities. And the companies that are confused and have no clue what they're doing are the ones that just have it all under one umbrella and have the same people doing the same things, have the same people doing sales and marketing. And it's marketing, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but from my understanding of marketing, because I'm not an expert marketer, but my understanding of marketing is, brand awareness, getting your name out there, letting people know you exist, different product placement, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the list goes on. Sales is picking up a check. You're not building friends. You're not doing all this other jazz. You're not letting people know about your product. You're picking up a check. That's what you're doing. You're engaging in a transaction. So that, I think the reason why we need to have this conversation is because when people, call us and say that, hey, you know what, we need to increase sales. Can you do this marketing campaign? Can you do this marketing campaign? And I always have to turn them down because that's not our specialty. We will train your sales staff, whether it be a direct sale, outside sale, inside sale, whatever the case may be. We're on that transactionary end. We're not on the awareness side and the campaigning. I mean, I'm not trying to belittle that at all. That's a very difficult job. The people that do it, get paid a lot of money, and rightfully so. But, everyone's got to run their lane, and that's just not what we do.
That's a very good point there where you emphasize, I think one of the key there is understanding the clear difference, the clear distinction between the marketing side and the clear distinction between the sales side, and how your job, what comes down to it, is just to generate revenue. In a sense, why do you feel that so many people, when I talk to a lot of people, that sometimes they get the confusion, they think that sales is marketing, people who are not necessarily selling. Why do you feel that is? Are they just a lack of knowledge, or do you think that they just themselves see that their sales is equal to their marketing effort?
I think it would have to be lack of knowledge. I think anyone who's immersed in the process should, in theory, know the difference because you're engaging in completely different activities when you're marketing versus when you're selling. And so I think that where it happens is, it's maybe back in the day when, they had the accounting and HR department all in one, right? So it was the people that would hire you would also cut your checks and do all that, all the bookkeeping, they would be all in one until they eventually realized, whoa. Human interaction and relating with that is a completely different process than cutting a check and ensuring our books balance. So they separated the two. And I think that, now we need to start doing the same with sales and marketing, because until we do that, and I mean, there's certain companies that, need a bigger marketing department versus a sales and vice versa, but that's a completely irrelevant point. The point is those are two separate departments and you cannot just rope them into one. It's irrelevant how you actually physically house them. What is important is the people that are doing your sales should be doing your sales. The people that are doing your marketing should be doing your marketing. And that's that. I think it's really just boils down to lack of knowledge, or really just a lot of companies not really wanting to learn a new way. I mean, and I say that loosely because it technically is not or should not be a new way, but some people are just stuck in their ways.
Do you feel that the personalities, the people that are in those fields, or why do you feel that there's in a company? I've seen this, and maybe it's just my view, but I've seen that there's been tension where marketing folks and salespeople tend to sometimes not work in unison. Salespeople want to get more leads, and unfortunately, quote unquote, the marketing folks don't know what they're doing and not giving us enough leads. Why do you feel that there's a tension as you work with different organizations? Do you see any tensions, I guess?
All the time. I mean, I walk into companies and they've got a lead gen machine and they've got outbound calling. And, there was one company in particular, I won't name them, but they were paying inside sales reps strictly to generate leads, and they were paid strictly off of the lead generated, irrelevant of whether that lead closed or not. And then the sales guys would get out there and, the people had no clue that the salespeople were coming, or it was, completely, I wouldn't want to say a lie, but it was falsified pretenses of how the salespeople were walking in. They were selling financial services, and the salesperson would walk in and the person would not even be properly qualified, not properly vetted, have no clue. So I think, a lot of tension comes in to, I absolutely hate saying this, but the KPIs are not, they don't relate at all. So marketing people are judged or based off of their performance is based off of certain metrics, and salespeople are based on other metrics. So, there's no synergy as far as that goes. And I think that that's where a lot of the tension starts. And then it only inflames from there where, and I'll be honest, salespeople, we don't do anything to help it. We are, and salespeople are going to say, oh, no, but we are arrogant people. And it's because we know we are absolutely the most important part of any company. So, we tend to put ourselves on a pedestal, which we shouldn't do. And so when someone from marketing wants to tell us one thing, we're going to go and tell them how it is. And, it just goes from there.
So recognizing that we, need to start with the fix, are there any other ways that you've seen to be able to fix this issue within companies? Or do you see a bigger issue in small companies versus large companies?
I wouldn't say there's bigger issues I would say the issues are different when the company is larger versus when the company is smaller. But I'm a firm believer in, let marketing people do all the indirect tasks. When you start getting them to do all the lead gen and all that other stuff, the messaging is always different from what the salesperson is actually going to be going in there to sell. And then also on the fulfillment end, what the salesperson sells, the person that needs to now fulfill it is always walks in there saying, what the hell did you promise them? So, so I mean, I think there's always disconnect no matter what part of the, the life cycle that you go down of the company. But I think how the best way to correct it is let the marketing folks focus on all the indirect messaging with nominal input from probably the VP of sales. Just have the VP of sales sit in on the conversations with their mouth shut. And if something is, they're going to go and send a certain type of messaging that's completely contradictory to the way, the actual sales cycle takes place, then maybe the VP of sales steps up. But outside of that, there should be a clear line in the sand. But I'm a firm believer of, salespeople should be generating their own leads because it's different. When you are the one generating your own leads or you are engaged in that activity, you know that your messaging from lead gen to sales pitch to close will be consistent. Because I'm not going to generate a lead by walking in and telling somebody X and then going in pitching Y and then closing on Z. Like it's just not going to happen. Versus when you get the disconnect and you got your marketing doing lead gen. Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to look.
Yeah, there's a guy that shared something with me, and to go back to what you shared about a couple questions ago now, where you talked about the folks who were having the marketing folks, do the separate between this guy was going out getting all the setting up appointments for you and so forth, and they were getting paid based on those appointments, independent of the actual deal closing. That right. I saw people game the system, and I saw people like you're saying there. I saw people that just weren't committed to it, and it wasn't a succinct sales force. It was like just fractioned, and right. That never proved a great result for them. But when I saw you had that unified front, I saw a big difference. That's just one thing that came to mind as you're speaking on that topic there. But let's jump gears a little bit. We spoke about the sales side, spoke about the marketing. Let's talk about sales reps and their ability to improve in this, I would say, this new age of selling. You going out to a lot of these companies and you're seeing some things. Do you feel that the sales arena is changing, or do you feel that how big is social selling to you and to some of the companies you come across? I'd love to get your take on that.
So I think that I'm seeing a clear line in the sand from that. I'm always coming across two types of companies. One type of company that's big on sales and another type of company that's not so big on sales. And, you would say, well, that sounds pretty evident. But what I'm saying, though, is that the polarity is starting to increase. Before, you kind of walk into a situation and somewhat anticipate that, most companies are going to find sales fairly important. However, now I'm walking into situations where they're just hungry, thirsty, ready to slit their own mother's throat for a sale versus there's other companies that are just meh, we'll see, they've got this holier than thou mentality where, we want to do good work and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And it's like, well, your cash flows are depleted. You've got no profitability. Yeah. Good job. Yeah. Keep that up. But I think so those are typically the situations that I'm walking into that I've noticed probably the last 15 assessments that I've walked into. That's kind of been the situation. Some are on one end and others are on the other end. And I think that what I find most concerning about just the overall picture is that the ones that are not so concerned with sales, it's not that they're not profit driven or that they don't care about it. They just don't believe that the traditional sales cycle works. I think it was Bill Gates who coined the term content is king. So these companies are, we're just going to put out fantastic content that's incredibly valuable. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying absolutely yes, do that. But that's not always going to translate into a sale. And so by sitting there and being passive, hoping, it's what do they call it? Hope marketing, where you sit there and fingers crossed, I hope someone comes and buys. I mean, it's ridiculous. But versus on the other end, where it's some companies, they put together like 1,000 different processes and then just way overcomplicate the system. So I always tell everybody, don't put it on a pedestal. Don't make it anything larger than it is. It's a sale, treat it as such and, use your brain and, be a human. If you can be a human in front of your client, at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a product or a price. Stop acting like a delicate genius and just go in there, have a conversation with them. And, in theory, if it's a right fit, you should get the sale.
What do you mean be a human?
Well, what I mean by human, and this is, I'll give you guys a sneak peek on something that I'm working on. Everyone always asks me, what sort of methodology do you use? What sort of methodology are you going to instill in our company? And I always try and reply with, we're probably not going to really use much of a methodology at all. And then I figured out that is my methodology. It's what I'm now calling a conversational methodology. It's about having a conversation. The simplest way I can explain it is this. Think about when you're at everyone's got an uncle, and everyone's got that uncle, that loudmouth that'll tell you about all of his opinions. So when you're at a backyard cookout at a grill and your uncle tells you that, this particular player would beat that other particular player at a game of basketball or whatever it would be, and you're not a salesperson, but you're going to stand there and you're going to argue with him and you're going to hold your ground and then, put forth the valid points, and whether you win it or not, you're going to walk away having given him about 6 or 7 rebuttals. Why can't you be in that same mentality when you're in a sales call? Why is that when we add commission, a product, a prospect in front of you, when we add any of those 3 words or any other number of different words, you all of a sudden clam up and you start trying to become a robot and you try and do 10 different things, which makes no sense. If you can maintain that frame of mind that you would have with your uncle and just have a conversation, maybe you can cut out some of the cuss words and some of that. But if you can just have just a conversation with your prospect, and I really hate the word prospect, but I want to call them a conversation partner, but I also don't want to sound too odd. But at the end of the day, if you can just have a conversation with the person and you can be a human and you can just sit there and talk, and whatever they tell you, speak to what they say. Do not try and remember, I'm supposed to say this, and then I'm supposed to say this, and then this is the objection handle. No, just have a conversation with the person. If you can have a conversation with the person and just be a genuine, likable person, and you know what? The sale will take place on its own if it's meant to, because no one's going to sell everybody and not everyone's going to have a need for your solution. But at the end of the day, if there is a need for your solution, the only way you're going to get it in that door is by having that person like you and that person wanting to do business with you. And the only way that that's going to happen is by having a conversation with them.
I love that idea of having a conversation and being real. I also love the concept that you share behind it, not necessarily methodology, but just being yourself. Because when you want to get a point across, some people say kids are some of the greatest salespeople. The kids don't go through any training. The kids just want to get their thing. So, Mom, this is the reason why I need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100% right. 100% right. Because when we started thinking that we need to sell something or we're doing something for an exchange of money or something, all of a sudden we climb up and we try so hard to be professional. we become so regimented trying to follow some awkward process that makes no sense. You know what? Just be yourself. It comes back to what I always say. There's no such thing as a born salesperson. The only thing that are born are baby boys and baby girls. Salespeople are trained. You train someone how to close. You train someone how to do that. But the problem is that in all that training, we're training them out of being salespeople, because the best salespeople you're just being your natural self. It goes back to, I guess that circles back to divergent thinking, where I'm doing a lot of research on it right now for my book. But divergent thinking really just boils down to being able to think creatively and just in the moment, and not with a regimented set of rules. And if you can do that in a sales call, believe me, you're going to have the best numbers by far and away.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to do towards that. And I think there's the one of the things that come to mind in that sense is, the more you practice it, the better off you're going to be. The more you can practice or be in even like, go out on more calls or get some more opportunities, and just to be in the moment with sellers, with your buyers, and just be there with them. That's where you can truly see it. If you look at some of the consultative selling practices that they've had, it had a similar mentality or the ideology that you need to be a consultant. And if you need to be a consultant, you just need to be there and understand and learn from them.
Absolutely. The only thing that I'll add to that is 100% agree with everything you just said there. Just do not overcomplicate the sale. Do not try to be a doctor and try and, be overly prescriptive. Just have a conversation. Have a conversation and you'll be fine.
So true, man. So true on that. As we get ready to come towards the end of our discussion today, if there's one major thing you'd like folks listening to the show to walk away with, what's that one major piece of advice?
The one major piece of advice that I would have is, obviously be prepared for the conversation, but understand that, and this is what I tell everybody. I just had a lady in my office earlier this morning, and I don't want to seem pushy. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. You're not being pushy when you go in for a close. When you go in for a close, and if you've done everything appropriately leading up to that close, and you have vetted the person, you've done an appropriate needs analysis, you've done all that, and you've discovered the best solution for this person, if you do not close them and you do not appropriately help them, and you let them just wafer there, you're not doing them any justice. People don't want to do business with someone who's not confident. People want to do business with someone that's going to take control and say, yep, I'm confident in my solution. So when you just sit there and leave it up to them, you're not doing anyone any favors. So closing on somebody you're not being pushy. That's the one thing that I'm a millennial. I find millennials say, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to do it. You're not being pushy. You're actually you're just doing them a disservice. That's all you're doing. So
it's that moral obligation, right?
It's what they think is a moral obligation to just let them choose. But really, at the end of the day, they know that you're there to sell them, and they're wondering why you're not closing them, and they don't know what to do next. So no one's just going to hand you a check. So they're thinking like, okay, maybe there's 10 other steps I still need to go through. When in fact, all you've now done is done this person a complete disservice.
So true, man. If there's folks out there want to get in touch with you or learn about your firm, or want to get connected with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you, man?
Best way to connect with me is through my website. I've got a link on there. So it's rosegardenconsulting.com. Tweet me at RGC Sales, Facebook, Rose Garden Consulting. Call me, cold call me. I will pick up the phone. Now, if you want to try and sell me something, I've always got time for salespeople. So give me your best pitch, and I will put you through that ringer. But hey, if you do a good job, I will open up my wallet.
Shoot. Hey, you mentioned it in the teaser. The beginning of the episode. So hey, it works. Give them some value. Now, are any cool projects you guys are working on? You mentioned the idea of a book. Anything you would like to let us know about?
Right now, I'm working on a book. Haven't gotten a title together yet, but it's basically my sales methodology, which is conversational selling. It's really trying to take away from all these other methodologies where, they work, they don't work, it's irrelevant. Really, again, it just boils down to what we were talking about. How do you have a conversation? How do you just go back into a human frame of mind? How to think on your feet? It's really just conversational selling. We don't have a title for it yet, but we're working on it. It really just boils down to, how to be a human, how to have a conversation with somebody. How do you help people buy? Nobody wants to be sold to. People buy off people that they like. That's really what it boils down to. Help people buy. That's what I always say. And the only way you can help them buy is by understanding their needs, ask enough questions. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your company, your founder's mentality, all that jazz. Forget it. Just ask them questions, figure out what they want, and then line them up with that. And that's all my book is going to teach you. What's the best, most simplest way of doing that without coming off salesy.
Sweet, man. Well, we'll definitely look out for that, and we'll put information in our show notes so folks can link back to you, and maybe they can, email you or call you to be posted when a book goes live, because it sounds like it's great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Would appreciate that.
Hey, no problem, man. We appreciate you coming on the show today, man. Thanks so much, Ali. I told you, Ali knows what he's talking about. He gave us some great insights, some great thoughts today. If you'd like to connect with him and also his company, learn a little bit more about what they're doing, if you're local to the ATL area, want to connect with them, reach out to him, or just reach out to him anyway. I mean, I'm sure he'll be more than willing to connect with you and your business and to see what he can do to offer advice and to share some of his talents and skills with you. But you can go ahead and get information by going to our show notes, thesalesevangelist.com/the word episode number 421. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the word episode number 421 to learn a little bit more about Ali and some of the great things that they're doing over there. Now, all in all, I want you to be successful, and I want your sales and marketing team to be happy. That's why I'm encouraging you to check out Prezi. See if it's something that you guys can do. Tired of giving the same old boring presentation using the same old slide deck that's just not working? It's been around since the 1990s. Time for an upgrade, man. Check out Prezi.com/TSE. Get a free demonstration, and you can see Prezi Business Tool in action. Again, Prezi.com/TSE to see this great, awesome, powerful tool to help you to tell more powerful stories, to help you to be able to express value more effectively, and to give your customers an experience. I want you to be happy, want you to be successful, and your sales and marketing team to be able to smash it. Most importantly, I want you to go out and do big things.